Hello and welcome to Shivo versus the First World. I'm Sheila D.
And I am Evo Terra. You're listening to our podcast about the reverse culture shock we experience every day as American citizens returning home after 3.5 years living and working overseas.
Today we're going to talk about travel. Yes, I know. We've talked a lot about our travels for the better part of 4 years and now 5 seasons of our show. But this time, we're taking a broader look at how travel, specifically air travel, works in places like Southeast Asia. Because, unless you've experienced it firsthand, you likely have some misconceptions about air travel in developing nations.
But before we get into all of that, sorry we skipped a couple of weeks. That might happen again as we get through this holiday period, so your patience is greatly appreciated. If you want to know more about what's happening in our lives that keep us away from the microphone, well, you could always listen to the bonus episodes we put out to our patrons. Those tend to be much more personal as well as time sensitive, sort of like a director's cut, if you will. And it's only available if you sign up at shivo.wtf/patrons.
Now, let's get into air travel abroad. We chose to live in Bangkok for a few different reasons. High on that list was the access we'd gained to other parts of the world.
Bangkok is a major international hub, and Southeast Asian nations are all geographically close to one another. So in about an hour, you can fly to at least 8 different countries. You can be in Japan in 4.5 hours. Dubai in 6. It's less than 7 hours to fly to Australia. And in 10 hours, you're in Helsinki, Finland.
But it's not just the ideal geography, it's the price. With just 1 week's notice, you can fly from Bangkok to 3 different countries for less than $100. For $200, you can travel to 8 more. 6 more countries are open to you for less than $300. And that's with only 7 days advance ticket sales.
Of course, there's more to travel than just short flight times and low prices. There's the convenience factor, realities of immigration, and the ever-important issue of safety in the air.
And we'll tell you about those and how they changed our Western sensibilities on air travel right after the break.
So I want us to look at this topic from a stereotypical lens, my dear. We think, for example, broadly, that American exceptionalism, that lovely thing that we have in our world, we think that also extends to air travel. That somehow using airlines over there is different. Giant hassles or just even downright dangerous. So did you have that, maybe, or maybe some of those assumptions before we made our big trip about the American exceptionalism?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I remember the one for me that freaked me out was when we told a friend of ours we were flying on, what's the Russian airline?
Oh, Aeroflot.
Aeroflot, right. And they're going, oh my God.
We get that from 2 people.
Yeah, you're going to have duct tape holding your wings together.
Falling out.
There will be wires that are disattached. Oh man.
No movies, no nothing.
Just planned. This is Soviet Russian type air travel.
Right. 1970s planes.
Couldn't be further from the truth.
It actually is still one of my favorite flights.
Yeah. So clearly as soon as that happened, we went, oh,
wait a minute.
We're not fully understanding what's happening here. Yeah, crazy. Okay, anyhow, your thoughts. Let's talk about convenience first.
Okay. I think it's super easy to buy the tickets. Ever so often there's an odd little thing that goes on with the credit cards.
Okay, right.
And that makes it a little bit of a hassle, but for the most part, I can buy tickets on my phone. Yeah,
and by odd things, what you mean is your American credit card company flags it as possibly fraudulent when you're in another country, not America, buying tickets to yet another country. Yeah, that looks a little suspicious since most Americans don't leave their homes. So they go overseas. Right, so there's a little bit of that. Not all of the airlines ticket things are amazing. You'll remember my 17 easy steps to do online check-in with China Eastern Airlines. That's a fun blog post, which I'll link to in the show notes right here in your app. So take a look at that.
Well, and then I also had the tickets that I had between Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, where we didn't actually get normally you get a confirmation and here's your flight and here's your seat numbers. No, I got a little, I think I had to badger them for a while to go, okay, do I really have seats here? and the ticket was only $17, but ended up being, it ended up being $100 because of fees and things like that. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened to my $17 flight?
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of that has to do with the competition that they face from the super discount airlines.
Right.
And I don't mean Southwest. I mean like Spirit Air here and Ryanair and EasyJet and ValueJet and the other European discount airlines, which are all universally terrible.
Right.
You're going to have problems, but it's a known entity.
Yeah.
When you get over to Southeast Asia, things are pretty cheap, but they understand that some of the places also want to offer the super cheap fares, and so you'll have a little weirdness. Yeah, so there's a little bit of challenge getting things checked in.
There's some pretty huge airports abroad.
Oh my God.
Just the major airport in Bangkok was once you got through immigration and TSA, well, not TSA, whatever it is.
Their version. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's 1.5 miles to get to your.
I think I mapped it out. I think it's about a kilometer that you walk.
It's a long ways.
From the time you go through security until you get, if your gates are one of the ones at the end, and ours are almost always one at the end, it's about a kilometer that you walk.
Or in our case, at one point we ran.
That's
because
true.
We were running late.
Savannah-Boom, there's the name of the airport.
Yes.
And, BKK, if you want to call it the short name, is a very large airport. And it's not the only one. Also, I didn't realize that gigantic airports. I was expecting, like when we fly to the Caribbean.
Right.
And you land in that little Quonset hut.
Right. You have to walk down the plane.
I was assuming that's what it's going to be like in these places. A couple of tin shacks, a couple of things here and there. And yes, if you travel to some small island, you're not going to be in DFW sized airports.
Right.
But when you go to Bangkok, you now think that LAX is a tiny airport.
Right.
Because they are
minor.
They're gigantic. Another fun thing from the airports is leaving the airport. So landing is fine.
Right.
But then when you leave the airport, we're used to standard forms of transportation. Jump in taxis. And of course, you can get that in Bangkok. Lots of Ubers, or used to be Ubers. Now they're Grabs running around. You can get shuttle buses, all the standard transportation models you get to. Or you could land in some place like Hanoi.
Yes.
Which, or Kuala Lumpur and other airports that you get to, where taxis aren't really taxis. Some of the time. A taxi could be somebody's private car.
Right.
It could be a taxi.
But KL wasn't a car. KL was that was a train that you take in.
You could take a train. Right. Yeah, you can go those. But I'm thinking of when we landed in Siem Reap, for those of you that are in the stateside, right? Yep. Your taxi is a tuk-tuk.
Right.
Is an open air dude on a motorcycle who has a bench across the back of it that you get into.
Which is interesting when there's 4 of us and all of us have luggage.
Yes. Right. Fly to some of the smaller airports in Vietnam and rickshaws.
Right.
Pick you up. Dudes on bicycles, which will drive you 8 kilometers on a bicycle to your hotel while carrying a Coke machine.
Right.
So those are kind of fun and interesting.
But we were mostly flying into the bigger cities. We would take internal transportation like trains and different things like that to go around. But it was a lot of fun.
And when you get to the airport afterwards, you're done. You're at the vacation. You just want to get on the plane as quickly as possible. You go look for the curbside check-in.
There's none.
I don't think I ever saw curbside check-in at all.
I don't think so either.
While we were traveling. I don't even think they'd had it in Europe. I could be wrong. It's been a couple of years.
I don't remember it.
It doesn't seem.
So we just came back from Estonia about almost a year ago.
No curbside check-in.
And I don't remember it there.
And you know why I think that is?
Why?
I think most other people, other than Americans, I'm going to single out us Americans for a moment, know how to pack when they travel.
Right.
They pack for the travel. They don't pack their entire house to go on a 3-day vacation with them.
Right.
So I think that's part of the reason there's no need for curbside check-in because you've got less luggage with you.
That's true. Because if you take a look around, and there's exceptions to this. I mean, you see the families that have like 29 different bags, and they're the huge, great big ones.
Right.
But the majority of people are all traveling with carry-ons.
Yeah.
Little bitty things.
Sure. And so, I think that's also a holdover from the super cheap airlines that charge money for extra baggage.
Yeah.
So why not learn to travel much, much lighter? I agree.
We did.
Oh, of course we did. Big time. Now, let's talk about frustrations. We're talking about convenience inside of airports. Let's talk about frustrations inside of airports. What are you most... I have one, but what are you most frustrated by for international airports that you think our American listeners aren't quite ready for?
Well, so KL is my least favorite airport ever. And I will do anything possible to avoid that airport.
Sheila will route us around different countries to not have to go through
with
Kuala Lumpur
with the possibility
International
of
Airport.
Actually missing flights because I will not go through that unless I'm going to KL.
Yeah.
I just, for them, they had immigration within immigration.
Yeah, there's multiple times you have to go through immigration and security. It's nuts. There's nothing there. It looks abandoned. You can't there's no place to get cash.
And everything takes, what was the
ringgits.
Ringgits. So if you didn't have ringgits, you don't eat or drink.
Right. Which is fine. If there's an ATM, you can pull ringgits out, but there's no ATM down there.
But if you're just flying through, you don't want to get ringgits.
But even if they had an ATM, there would be an option. They don't even have that. So
but they don't take credit cards. They don't. But they did have that. I think was the first time we saw a place to fill your water bottle.
That is true.
And that was super convenient.
That's nice.
I like that. And I'm starting to see those here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have just in your outings, but that's super nice.
Yeah, filtered water.
Right.
Which we don't worry about here so much, but you certainly want filtered water in Indonesia.
Right.
Definitely drink the filtered water. My biggest frustration for traveling to these international airports are the inconsistent way that human beings understand what moving walkways are for. It is a moving walk way. It is not a moving stand way. My gosh. And it is very country specific.
Yeah.
People do and I think it's the same way for escalator traffic. Some people like in Canada, people will continue to move up and down the escalators. Right. So I'm told. In America, we get on an escalator, we stop.
Right.
Well, in Southeast Asia and a lot of countries, and especially Thailand, they get to the walking sidewalk and they stop.
And for me, I'm not as bothered by that unless they're standing blocking the entire way.
Yeah.
That's when it's a problem because then nobody can get by. It's like, nope.
Well, I can get by because I pull out the angry Farang card and just start letting them know that I am there.
I hate that card.
Yeah, I know. But if they would just get out of my way, honey, you would never have to see it. So whose fault is it really? Anyhow, moving on to that one, you brought up immigration and how great it is for Kuala Lumpur. Overall thoughts on immigration. There's another reality of being an American traveler when you're in Southeast Asia. When you go to these countries, this is not the Schengen area of Europe.
Right.
You don't get to just walk out of France and just move into Spain. It is not like crossing from Utah into Nevada. This is very much a different process because you got to go through immigration. So now our passport books are the size of a small Bible.
Well, we did have pages
because
added.
We doubled them up to get more pages.
We had to, but they don't do that anymore, by the way.
We have been through a lot of immigration. So let's talk about, I'd like to get your thoughts overall, honey, on the realities of immigration in third world countries.
The worst one is KL. They do not have a good queuing system.
Right.
They don't have lines set up. And some people like to just push their way through to the front. I'm not pointing at you.
Right. No, you mean the French people. Or just that one French lady.
That one French lady that you probably pissed off.
Yeah, it's weird. When you're standing in lines at most of these places, you will see the standard silver towers and blue or red ribbons or yellow, whatever, that line up, that we're used to for any sort of traffic control of foot traffic. You put these little temporary borders up and people queue up and you line up cattle car style and do that one. Yeah, not in KL. It's a giant room the size of like 4 soccer stadiums with immigration stands kind of in the middle, and the mass of humanity just sort of makes its way there.
Right. And I don't think that they staff properly.
No. And I don't know why, because labor's super cheap in the third world, so I'm not sure why they don't do that.
Also, it's not like these flights aren't planned.
That's true as well. There should be no surprise.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the another reality, not just KL, but this happens in Bangkok all the time. You will land, or actually usually it's when you're trying to leave. It's not when you're landing, it's when you're leaving and things are overloaded.
Right.
There will be 3,000 people attempting to get through immigration that has 4 agents on duty.
Right.
And neither of those two numbers are exaggerations.
No, not at all.
It's insane. And they will come back days later and say, well, we didn't realize there are all these flights that were going on. But you should. It's not, everybody who had tickets knew.
Pop up in a day.
Right. It's not like the planes decide, that looks nice. Down there's good. Should we go get those people?
They're planned 6 months in advance, people.
No real surprise.
So
no real terrible surprise. Yeah. So immigration, hit or miss, I think is the way.
Definitely.
The way to say that one. I think the crazy, to tell a specific story, you told the KL story, so I'll tell the Siem Reap the first time that we went. So Siem Reap is not the biggest airport. That would be Phnom Penh. It's a much larger airport.
I like Siem Reap.
I loved it. It was actually very modern, very nice. It doesn't get a lot of traffic.
Nope.
So it's not a very complicated mess to go through their immigration, except when the problem with getting into Cambodia, you have to have a visa.
Yes.
You get a visa ahead of time and you get an e-visa ahead of time, right?
But we didn't know that the first time we went.
Did not know. You learn these things as you go.
I knew we needed a visa. I didn't know that we could get an e-visa. That was the difference. I did know we needed a visa.
But here's how I understand the process, as I remember what happened. So we got into the immigration area, which is just off the tarmac, walk inside. There are the immigration counters with a gaggle of people around them who are all filling out and turning in their visa applications and their $20 US dollars that it costs. Hey, surprise, all the ATM machines in Cambodia kick out US dollars.
Yes,
that's weird to get used to. Regardless, we hand our $20, we hand in our visa applications, and then something happens in the background. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, your visa is ready, except it's not just your visa is ready, it's that everyone's visa is ready. And now behind the counter are these Cambodian people trying to say out loud, not with microphones, not on a display monitor system behind them, but just trying to shout out non-Cambodian names. That's really funny. Because there were 150 people packed in this area waiting to get there so that they could continue the process of getting into the gosh darn country.
This is where I was very happy that I had a sticker on the front of my passport.
Oh, so you can see when they wave it around.
That's why I did that.
Got it. Very, very wise of you, my love.
Maybe we should do that to yours.
Maybe, but a hologram on it would be awesome. I think we'll just attach a whistle so I can just blow into it and I would hear it.
Yeah, but that was a little difficult because none of us could really hear.
Mm-mm.
And then you couldn't always tell what the pronunciation was.
Right.
And so you're standing there going, is that mine? At least for you, because I could see which one they were waving for me.
Right. Or then they would look at the picture.
Right.
And try and find that person in the field.
Right.
And
looking out for you.
If it's a bunch of European ancestry people, this may sound terrible, but we all look alike. I mean, that's just the way it is. I'm so sorry. So that's the all right. So that's immigration.
How'd you feel safe on any of our flights or in any of the airports?
Well, that's also a big factor here. As Americans, we have this expectation that lawlessness and without the really official TSA that things are much more roughshod and you could smuggle anything on there. And I have to say that all of that is complete and utter bullshit. I mean, these airports are fine.
Yeah.
They have security. Are they TSA agents? No.
Nope.
But they have all been trained and passed some sort of regulation so that these countries can continue to fly people into America,
Right.
which has these hardcore, strict regulations. I didn't feel it was any different. I felt it was every bit as rigid. X-ray machines, body scanners.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say in some places, I think it might have been even more thorough
Yeah,
than we get here in
some
America.
of them are. I take everything out of my camera bag almost every time we travel.
They force you to take everything
Yes.
out of your camera bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want to check and see what those electronics and components are. Or maybe they just want to admire your lens selection.
Maybe.
Don't know.
Did you ever fly with chickens?
No. There were no times when livestock, I mean, I've watched The Golden Child, I don't know, 20, 30 times. And I've flown into those areas, but I didn't see any real livestock.
Yeah.
Not even, I mean, I see more dogs on planes in America
Right.
than I do overseas. So, no, here's the thing, people. Their planes don't fall out of the sky.
Right.
They are well maintained. They are fully functioning, good quality, high-end, Boeing-made, Airbus-made, the exact same things that you are flying on here in the States. They fly on those as
What
well.
you're used to.
The interior was amazing.
It's super clean.
Very clean. Their staff, the airlines, the flight attendants, impeccable.
Right.
Speak excellent English no matter where we were or
And
we're going
multiple
to.
languages typically.
Right, because they have to speak the language of the country they're originating from.
Right.
They have to speak the language they are going to, and they have to speak
typically
English. And
Right.
probably 19 other things because they're
Right.
that stinking talented.
Yeah, the flu.
We didn't get the flu once when we were there.
The crew is really well trained. We have some friends that are, Ming, I'm
Mhm.
going to call him out, is he's flight crew.
Yeah.
And is training to be a pilot now.
And you know why that is?
Why?
Is because Ming is beautiful. And everybody
Oh.
on the flight crew for all of these places were all the best looking specimens. All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. There were no trolls. It's amazing.
Okay, we may need to cut that out of our show.
Look,
You know,
we have some trolls in America, and they sometimes are in the flight crew.
you
I'm not calling anybody out because I don't know
You
anybody by
should-
name,
you
but I'm
should
just saying
stop.
they're all gorgeous
you should
people.
Stop.
They're all gorgeous
You
people.
should stop. Let's talk about the food.
Ooh, the food. Yeah.
The food is really good.
You know how terrible your airport food is? The last time you flew from LA to Chicago or something like that, you bitched about the food nonstop. I understand. You should not do that anymore. You should fly internationally because the food is typically, not always, but typically pretty amazing.
And you actually have started ordering the vegetarian.
I will get the vegetarian. I will get the Hindu. I will do some other weird because that tends to be specific to the area,
Mhm.
highly specialized, and I think much more better prepared than the standard Salisbury steak, which you get if you don't order that.
Well, I don't think that they're mass prepared they're still mass prepared,
Sure.
but they're not as mass prepared
Right.
as those general
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
meals.
I don't know. I mean, they do a lot of prepackaged foods.
Right.
Like if you're traveling in the morning, sometimes you'll get like a plastic
muffin.
wrapped muffin or things
Right.
like that. Or even for lunchtime, you'll get sandwiches, but they're odd sandwiches, right? The sandwiches always have the edges trimmed off and they're perfectly neat and they've got weird things
Right.
inside of them, but it's fantastic. I mean, you're eating local,
Right.
but you're not eating super local.
Right.
Like if you're on a Thai flight, they're not making the food pet mak, which means very hot. It is designed. They don't know where somebody is from, so they're using a pretty approachable food process. So you're not. If you fly Korean Airlines, you're going to get kimchi, but it's going to be a very little
Light.
bit of kimchi,
Light.
and it's not going to be super stinky kimchi the way I like it. It's going to be pretty, but enjoy it. You will like.
Yeah.
You may not recognize it. You may not recognize it. If you have food allergies, definitely let them know. But I can almost promise you that if you're traveling overseas because you want to, you're going to enjoy the food on your airplane.
When we flew from, I think it was Hong Kong to Hanoi,
Mhm.
which is not a long flight.
A couple hours, maybe.
Yeah. They fed us twice.
Well, sure. Why'd not? You never know. You might eat again. So.
Right. I mean, they really do feed you, and they feed you well.
Yeah, you don't need to bring snacks on the plane.
No.
Chances are you will be fat and sassy by the time you're done.
Well, you're sassy.
What? You used to call me fat?
I did not.
Terrible.
Sassy. I just called you sassy.
Uh-huh.
So let's judge the American stereotypes about air travel with non-Western airlines or to non-Western countries. Is this something you embrace about the first world? Are you embarrassed as a member of Western civilization? Or is that stereotyping so bad it makes you want to escape back to a developing nation?
Look, we're wrong. We're just flat out wrong. Those stereotypes are completely inaccurate. And if you've only ever flown puddle jumpers to the Caribbean and you think that's what it's like everywhere else, you are wrong. It is an embarrassment that more people from America specifically don't travel out to other non-Western civilization places. And if you do it, you will certainly break that stereotype. It's very different, but it's also very, very safe. People just go through and do it.
I'm embarrassed, and I would really like to escape back.
You can't pick
so
two.
That I can I just did.
But wait a minute, you want to escape back? Fine, let's go. My job goes with me anywhere.
Can we take that little girl with us?
No, I don't. I think they call that kidnapping. I think that's a major.
Probably can't go then.
Hey, remember back at the top of the show when we mentioned our bonus content that we only make available to our patrons? Well, we just recorded something all about Halloween. Something we hadn't done in a long time because we were traveling. And if you want to hear that, you have to become a patron. You have to become a patron. Go to shivo.wtf/patrons and sign up. It's like $1. It's super fast, super evo, and super easy too. shivo.wtf/patrons.
Don't forget that some patrons are eligible for special gifts. We've sent handwritten postcards, care packages from abroad, and of course, the special exclusive patron-only content Evo just mentioned. Dozens of listeners just like you think this show is worth a couple of bucks a month. If you agree, get on the list at shivo.wtf/patrons today.
Thanks to all the amazing flight crews of all the airlines we've traveled around the world with. Somehow, their smile never falters when dealing with idiot tourists who don't understand the culture, don't speak the language, and always try to cram too much in the overhead bins. And I'm not necessarily talking about me.
And thank you for listening to Shivo versus the First World. For more episodes and easy ways to listen each week, just go to shivo.wtf/podcast. Neither of us are hard to find on all of the relevant social media. I'm Sheila D.
And I am Evo Terra. We'll be back next week, maybe, with another adjustment to your first world problems. Cheers!